So at least we can.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abdul Kabir Mohammed from the Lagos State University. I'll be sharing this panel session consisting of 4 presenters, 4 different books, and with some of them having 2 authors and some having just 1 presenter. So the first book here, the first paper here is African Traditional Political Institutions, Relevance and Resistance in the 21st Century by Muhammad Olayinka Yusuf and Stephen Sheyi Asa, University of Ilorin. I beg to ask, can you signify if you are around? All right. So the next paper is Traditional Authorities and Border Management in Nigeria by A. Akubo Aduku and Abdul Adaji, Kogi State University. I'm sorry if I pronounce these names wrongly. I'm a typical Yoruba person. Are you here, sir?
Yes.
And the third paper is Female Chieftaincy in the Idare Kingdom, Ondo State, 1930 to 2021 by Yanoluwa Akinola. Yeah, she's there with us. And myself, representing Between Modernity and Conservatism, Nigeria's Traditional Political Institutions Under Perpetual Siege, Muhammad Abdulkabir, Lagos State University. All these papers are channeled along the theme African Traditional Political Institutions in Modern Democracies. Of course, we are aware that in the present time, one of the topics that is gaining momentum is African identity, resilience, African traditions. Because we are aware that for a very long time, the institutions have been denigrated, have continued to be denigrated. The institutions have tried to be subjugated by some powers. So these are the things that we'll be discussing in this session. And of course, we are going to be having diverse dimensions to it. So we hope that you sit back and listen to this, enjoy this session. It's going to be an insightful one. So quickly, the first paper here, which will be presented by Muhammad Olayinka Yusuf and Stephen Sheyi Asa, University of Ilorin. Can you please proceed?
Thank you very much for that. I would like to appreciate first of all for this. My topic, which is facing the 21st century, African traditional political institutions, relevance and resistance. But first, I would like to highlight this that the evolution and convolution of human necessitate the establishment of the yeah, in decolonizing Africa, we need to understand the prominent role and the development of the African traditional political system, which I would like to talk about, I think, at this. First, I want you to understand the basics of the concept of African political institution. It is like widely known that African hold lofty their custom and tradition as well as political patterns very built. They cherish the constitution of such a yeah, this is our again African traditional political institution influence the authority of traditional engineers. Yes, when Professor Lewis he established the fact that African traditional political institution is a representation of culture, a representation of the people's voice. In some ways, I'll give the Yoruba kingdom as an instance. In the mythology of Yoruba, Oduduwa is assumed to be the leader of the Yoruba movement. As a form, is a kind of the king of the Yoruba movement. The methodology of the Yoruba ancestral development. And this will be evident in the development of the Yoruba nation as a whole. When we are talking about the system of government system of government that in place in the Oyo Empire, where the Alaafin still as Aláṣẹ Èkejì Òrìṣà, the spiritual guide, the spiritual leader of the state, and like a second version to the law. And it serves as an interface between his people and the deity. The fact that I want to establish here is the fact that, you know, before the colonial rule, the kings, the African traditional rulers are seen as the representation of people's voice. They are seen as the representation of people's voice. The people's voice. They were conferred, like they were conferred the power. They were conferred the power of the people, which Nere established in his book that the African traditional institution is a form of democracy in itself, and it can be established in the check and balance system which the Oyo Kingdom was practicing before the 18th century, during the 18th century, the system of government whereby the Islam of Oyo is at the center of the system, and the Olomesi, which is slightly below the Alaafin, and they serve as a check to the Alaafin power. Although some argue that the Alaafin is welded with enormous power, but it's established, it's the fact that it's established that the Alaafin power has always been checked by the Olomesi, which there are instances of the presentation of Calabash to the Alaafin if he exceeds his power. Moving down, I would like to establish democracy, the establishment of democracy in Africa. And this will be evident in our contact with the colonial system, especially the British colonial system, which this side of Africa were colonized by this side of Africa by the British. I would like to establish how the British came into power. And one thing I would like to establish here is that the infusion of the British system to the African traditional political system welded enormous power to the African traditional system. What I mean by enormous power is that I don't mean the structure itself. I mean the king, the ruler, the Alaafin of Oyo, the emir in the north, the Eze in the south. I mean, it's welded enormous power to the indirect route. This is the instance I would like to bring. You know, the British were trying to rule indirectly, quote unquote, the indirect route system. It's a form of system that the British were still they're still making the ruler, but indirectly the British mercenaries were the one ruling. They just use them as the British mercenaries. Now, the point I would like to establish here is that then when we came in contact with the British, they welded a lot of power to the rulers, traditional rulers, in the sense that those check and balances that were there even before the colonial rule were no more in place. In the sense that only the native courts and other British machinery can check the essence of the over and curb the essence of the over, which has tampered with the already existing, which has tampered with the fact of democracy itself, in all sense that the British represent. Now, my paper is arguing that African political institution remains fundamentally intertwined with African political lines. Preserving and celebrating this institution is crucial for cultural continuity and identity, grassroots development and nation building, trying to make greater success through collaborative efforts with traditional structures. What I meant by this is that for us to successfully have a thriving nation, for us to successfully have a nation that encompasses all what democracy stands for, we should go back to our roots. We should go back to our roots in the sense that yes, we want to imbibe democracy, but we should understand how democracy is being played in our own African context. What I mean by African context is my paper delve further into the current issues that have been facing African traditional political institutions in Nigeria in the 21st century.
Is it 1 minute left?
3 minutes left. Thank you very much for that. And I discussed at length about the way the obas are being appointed. And in some instances, we see the influence of the state governors in the appointment of the traditional rulers. And in some instances, the state governors we only assent to what the people of that particular region presented as their traditional rulers. In the case of the Olubana, now, after the deposit of the current Olubana now, it is quite challenging. It's quite challenging for the Ibadan people to present a king. The reason is this. It's not because they don't have a system in place, but it's just the fact that there are a lot of families involved already. And this family, there's a system in which this appointment is being taken up. They have to go into the rigorous process of qualifying this representative of different families to appoint the Olubado itself. And we have the cases of what's happening in the Emir of Kano, where the former governor dethroned the former Emir of Kano, Sanusi Lamido, and imposed another one. And now the new governor is imposing the then former Emir into enthroning him back to power. This has caused political rancor and conflict in Kano presently, which it should. This current issue should be delved into by historians, and we should look at the way we can mitigate this conflict and help build our nation and make it thrive more further. I look forward to different questions and collaboration to my paper. It's still an ongoing research. But I look forward to my instance is, I don't know if it is, my argument is that to build our nation, a thriving nation, we need to infuse the African political, the traditional African indigenous political institution into the democracy, into our democratic system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mohammed Yusuf. That was fantastic. At least if there's anything that stands out for me in your presentation, it will be the statement that our tradition or the argument that our traditions are itself democratic. And so when the Western people came and said they want to introduce democracy to us, it is not outlandish or something that we already had in the past. But then the argument can also be tentative, because some people will tell you that there are different types of governance that took place in different regions. When you say democracy, that was basically done in the eastern region, like the Igbo potato system. The Hausa was centralized. It was very much centralized, so it can be tentative. So you can also look to strike a balance in that. But then I appreciate the fact that you mentioned that democracy was itself an African thing. Thank you very much. The second paper, I forgot to tell you, I'm sorry, this panel, each presenter has just 10 minutes to deliver their presentations so that we can have time for comments and questions. So the next paper is Traditional Authorities and Border Management in Nigeria by A. Akubo Aduku and Abdul Adaji, Ogi State University. Please kindly proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dr. Akubo, please kindly face the audience.
Hold your laptop so that you don't fall. Hey.
Thank you very much.
Just to start.
That is traditional authorities and border management in Nigeria. Implications for security. That's our proposition. Is actually a work in progress. But of course, I want to take off from where he started by saying that the traditional system started before the colonial experience was well organized. Really, they had their domains, they had their empires that was well governed, was well protected. In fact, the domains and the empires were overseen by the kings, the obas, and even the emirs. In those periods, the domains of kings were such that they can smell infiltration from wherever. When any intruder is coming from wherever, either an individual or a group of individuals, from afar, they have some kind of mechanism that they put in place. A report will get to the Oba before anything happens. And that was a very standard way of security. If people are bringing wars, they already know, they challenge them. If a stranger is coming in, they want to ask, are you coming in peace? Those kind of sensitivity was very well taken and helped the domains to be well secured in those days. But all of a sudden, we realize that there are nuances in the roles of the traditional authorities. At some point, they have been relegated. They've not been given their pride of place because of a lot of changes that has transformed. Of course, you know that part of the successes of the colonial reign in Nigeria was also credited to the structure of traditional institutions or authorities that were in place in those days. And some of them were adopted as a system because of the way it was organized. They had different arms, even security arms were there. But we want to look at how we can use this as a way to also help government to also redress. Let there be a kind of reapproachment, or let us also have a rethink about how we can reform our traditional institutions to actually help in fighting the current security challenges that we have in Nigeria. Of course, no, this is about the international border communities that we have in Nigeria. Most border communities now are said to be porous. Most border communities now are prone to attack. Most of the infiltrations are coming from the border communities. And then we now reason that what is the role of the traditional authorities? Are they really synergizing with the border management authorities? Are they playing the roles they are expected to play? Is there a way, are they carrying them along? Is government responsible? Is government in any way helping or collaborating with them to ensure that they can mitigate or they can even frustrate the intruders from coming, or they can even send intelligence reports about the movement around the international borders? So this study we set to look at various, we have selected about 12 communities. I don't want to go bore you with operationalization of concept because of our time. You know, we're supposed to look at traditional authorities, border management, border security or control, which maybe if I'm opportune, I will share this slide so all of you can have it, and then maybe later you can look at it. But one thing that I want us to know is that the border situation in Nigeria is one thing that I want to really talk about before we look at what we want to do. Nigeria has shared land borders that extend to 770 kilometers with the Republic of Benin to the west, then around 1,500 kilometers with the Republic of Niger to the north, and 1,700 kilometers with the Cameroon to the east. Then Nigeria also has what we call nautical boundaries, which is around the Warri, Aziz, Akwa Ibom, and then Bayelsa. Those also are also prone to infiltration. And we have over 2,000 communities, border communities, with over 155 local governments within 21 states of the Federation that have international boundaries. And we realize that if we want to really take security matter seriously, these border communities must be taken seriously. So this study has isolated about 12 communities from 5 geographical zones, and then from 12 states, each one from each state. 9 with land borders with other nationals, and then 3 with nautical boundaries that we want to really look at if we have the necessary funding to be able to carry out the study. And then what we intend to do using this, what is our desire, our objectives, to examine the nature of borders in Nigeria, to reflect on the role of traditional authorities in border management or administration in Nigeria, to also look at how to evaluate the significance of traditional authorities in border security and border management in Nigeria. And then we want to use this study now to examine how effective border security in Nigeria can actually take place. Then we desire also, we have a study area, the study area is targeted to, we're supposed to draw our information from our data from Orong in Akwa Ibom State, Ikon in Cross River State, Kaijama in Kwara State, Boko in Benue State, Takum in Taraba State, Ganye in Adamawa State, then Warri in Delta State, Badagry in Lagos, Idiroko in Ogun State, Gumel in Jigawa, and then Daura in Katsina, finally Port Harcourt in Rivers State. By the time we're able to generate information, we'll be able to see what traditional authorities in those communities are doing. How can they be effective in trying to see if they are able to secure their domains, then Nigeria can be secured. If they are not able to secure their domains, then the issue of security will still linger for a very long time to come. So if we're able to get all the necessary resources to undertake this study, because we intend to use a purposive sampling and then a snowball, then we tend to generate information using in-depth interviews, going to those communities to see what are the challenges, what they have been doing, or if they thought they have been doing anything, and what they need to be effective in ensuring that they provide the support that is needed to the border management agencies, to see how this kind of collaboration can help the national security of Nigeria. This is our submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next event, for the next event, I'd like to have advanced arguments that the intelligence in the Nigerian government has a role to play in just as the traditional land have roles to play in maintaining border security in Nigeria. The government have to, give some interventions in order to make these things realizable. Thank you. God bless you. The next presenter, female chieftaincy in the Kingdom, Ondo State, 1930 to 2021, by Idiano Akinola. It can be gone.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. All right, I don't think the PowerPoint is ready now, so I will just glance through it and proceed. So my name is Akinola Yanodowa Abidemi. I'm from Ondo State, Idowu to be precise. I finished from University of Nigeria in Nsukka, where I studied history and international studies. So my topic is female chieftaincy in Idowu Kingdom, Ondo State, from 1930 to 2021. So why did I pick 1930? 1930 is when the people of Idowu came down from the hill. Some persons must have heard of Idori and some persons must have not. Idori is one of the local governments in Ondo State. And initially, they were staying up the hills because they were surrounded by so many hills. But by 1930, they came down from the hills. And that's where my work will be based on, 1930 to 2021. So my abstract, in as much as we believe that Western civilization brought civilization to Africa, I want to say that Nigeria, the whole of Africa, they have what they call civilization. The first question is, what is civilization? My own feeling of civilization is when you know what to do, how to do, and you do things in order, it's a civilization. So African had their own word, civilization, but I will be talking about Idori Kingdom, and I'll just streamline to what? Female chieftaincy. So I'll go down to the female chieftaincy in Idori Kingdom and overview. I would like to say that in Idori Kingdom, based on my research from 2019, okay, before the research, in 2006, I went to the village for the first time, yes, in my life, and I enjoyed the view of the village. I love, there's one particular spot I like, that's upstairs, where I'll be able to view the hills very well. And by 2007, my paternal grandaunt became a priest, not really a priest. Okay, let me just say a chief. And the chief is like the third person, the top female high-ranked chief. And ever since then, my mom has told us we are not going to the village any longer. She's a witch, she's that, she's no longer going to church, she's now among the cults and all of that. I kept on asking myself from 2007 to when I entered school, oh, how you say this woman is a witch? What actually makes someone a witch? And from there, that is where my research started from. And I had to look for an excuse to go to the village. Then I picked this topic and I was allowed to go to the village. So I was able to find out who she is, and I found out that she's not a witch, but she belongs to a traditional cult. And the name of the cult is what? Orosun cult. So before I go up like that, we have the high priest called Lobun. Lobun is, Obun means market in Odo dialect, and Lobun means the owner of market. So the high chief is called Lobun. That's the owner of market. Then she have other chiefs, and we have like 5 or 6 female high chiefs, then other smaller chiefs. There's something about this traditional female chieftaincy. We don't have a particular name in Idori Kingdom, but other kingdoms have different names to talk about their female chieftaincy. Like in Ondo State, they have their own chieftaincy, female chieftaincy as Oboji, yes, that's what they call them. And they have their high chief known as what? Lobu also as Idori Kingdom. But Idori, they don't have, will I just say Idori Kingdom is more like a smaller part of Ondo Kingdom. So I would say that in the traditional female chief, the high chief is Lobu. And the present Lobu now, I spoke with her and asked her a lot about the traditional female chief. I found out that they have, will I say, they are chiefs, female chief with a lot of masculine attributes. They are females, but will I just say they've left their femalehood. They've taken the post of a man. Yes, they've taken the post of a man, introduced the posture of a man, yes, the posture of a man in what they do, because they have to relegate one of their, all their female duties. They don't cook, they don't do all of that. They just stay and, will I just say, I Chief Lobun, she have a palace. I wish the PowerPoint, so you have seen how our palace look like compared to the female, to the king. How his palace look like. Or based on the theory, when I asked about Lobun, we're told that she's a female aspect of Owa of Idori. And her palace is less beautiful compared to the male aspect, because we are told that we have female monarchy and we have the male monarchy. The female monarchy is Lobo and the male monarchy is what Owa. But when I check comparing the two, I find out that there are a whole lot of similarity. They're just different, and they are telling us that they are the same. But obviously, in their duty, they are not the same. The females, all what she's just doing is just to keep the sanity of the community by keeping all those custodial, all those rules and regulations. And again, before I forget, there are a lot of traditions, there are a lot of festivals, and she's also the one keeping the secrets of all those festivals. Like, for example, in Orosun, during Orosun festival, she's one of the priests They have to what? Ensure that that festival is what? In place. Without her, there is no what? No festival. And this Lobun, you would think that, okay, she's the owner of the market. She's meant to be selling something in Idore Kingdom. But she's not selling anything. She's not selling anything. Presently, she's not selling anything. Because of tradition, she's not selling it. But there's only one market she can sell something. That's in OK Dorin. And I said something initially that we're staying up the hills before we came down. Up the hills, we are called what? OK Dorin. But when we came down the hills, as a result of Governor Carter, he came and promised us that there will be protection if we should come down the hills and maintain the road between Idore and Ondo because of cocoa transportation. And that's why we came down the hills in 1930s. And ever since then, the tradition, each time they're having festival or anything, they have to go up the hills because that is where their tradition started. That is where their culture started. So anytime they have festival, anytime they have one sacrifice to do, they'll have to go back to the hills. All right, let me go down. Okay, yes, I talked about in the contest. Okay. Is it okay? Yes. All right. Okay. Okay, I was able to share this female chieftaincy institution into two aspects since we don't really have a specific name for the institution. So I shared it into the traditional female chieftaincy and the model female chieftaincy. In the traditional female chieftaincy is where is headed by Lobun. We have Lisa Lobun, we have Ologoshere Lobun, all the Lobuns and other small female chiefs. And the model female chieftaincy is headed by Iyaloja. That actually started in 1999. Well, I would just say since I heard the other panelists talk about democracy, I would say that democracy actually started basically in 1999. Yes, that is when it started, and that is when everything changed to in Idore Kingdom. And there's now a new aspect of female chieftaincy, which is the model chieftain headed by Iyaloja. Iyaloja and Lobu, their work is similar, but the beautiful aspect of it is that Iyaloja can travel around. She can go to Ondo Kingdom, she can go to Ondo State, she actually worked with the governor. Yes, she worked with Ondo State government to bring new things, talk about the market. She moved here and there. When I spoke with her during the course of the research, she told me that during the election, that she had to go and prepare for the election and all of that. But Lobun, which is the high chief and the head of the female traditional ruler, she cannot move around. The least place she can go to is Oweno. That's the highest place she can go to. So will I just say that I don't want to say that they should actually reduce the things in traditional female tradition, but they can maintain the two. And the major reason I'm talking about this is to make people understand that Idore Kingdom is not basically what you know, that's only the hills. There are also other beautiful aspects about this kingdom that I want people to come to know and understand and relate it with other aspects in African continent, because there are many female chieftaincy in other continents, in other places in Africa. They are also related to the people of Idore. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Akinola, for the wonderful presentation. And I would appreciate you especially for allowing me to know the fact that people feel down from the hill. And I also like you to make a comment and question and comment session. I'd like you to expatiate on some of the things that you also called and some of these female chieftaincy titles that you mentioned. And the last paper, Between Modernity and Conservatism, Nigeria's Traditional Political Institutions Under Perpetual Siege, by Abdulkabir Muhammad, my humble self, is going to comment straight away. All right. The perpetual denigration of African traditional political institutions is a topical issue that has received several scholarly interventions. It became a topical issue in Nigeria as traditional institutions continue to be more subservient to the bequeathed European system of government. This is largely consequential of Nigeria's colonial history. Many scholars have argued on the transmogrification of Nigeria's traditional political institution as consequential of European colonization of Africa. This act, however, witnessed a more denigrating dimension from the second half of the 20th century, as it was now perpetuated by both the Europeans and the Nigerians. Now, the aim of my study is to state what factors aided the success of the endeavor, that is, the denigration of Nigeria's traditional political institutions, the impact that this act has had on the traditional institution in Nigeria, and also to argue that we shouldn't be more focused on the colonialist only. My argument is basically to say that we should also allow the blame to go on the indigenous, the indigenes, Nigeria, the Africans as well, because they themselves also were included in the denigration of the traditional institution. Now, to do this, I conceptualize some words, which I will just brush because of time factor, tradition, and you can go online there and get a lot of definitions on traditions. Pocock, 1987, noted that traditions have been conceived by many as constituting the handing down of oral instruction from one generation to another. Austin, 1974, contends that, in general, we may describe the process of cultural tradition as a movement composed of three movements: a creative action, group commitments thereto, and cumulative interaction within the group. In essence, what I intend to do here is that to say that the question of change would always occur in tradition anywhere in the world. There's nothing to do about this. You just have to live by the realities. There will always be change at one point in time or the other. And it was this change that Daniel W. Brown, in his Rethinking Tradition in Modern Islamic Thought, pointed out that tradition is not an enemy of change, but the very stuff that is subject to change. For him, some part of traditions can at any point in time be considered for change. For instance, in the Yoruba traditional system, usually it used to be rulership by primogeniture. The eldest prince ascends the throne after the demise of the king, his father. But at the point in time, there was a change in tradition that the Aremo, which is the eldest prince, would have to die with the father, would be buried alongside the father. And why did they say this? Because they realized that at that time, the Aremo was exercising as much power as the father himself, especially when the father is aged, when the father has gone too old to carry out some functions. The son, the Aremo, is one going here and there to do these things, and he enjoys all the paraphernalia of the ruler, of the king himself. So they consider it that, okay, since his own existence, he lives his life like the king, so he should die with the king. This tradition itself, by the 19th century, in the middle of the 19th century, was also changed by one Alaafin Atiba, who, having established the new Oyo after the Yoruba Civil Wars, claimed that or wanted his son to succeed him, Adele, his son. And up to now, there is not such tradition is not more in place, whereby the Aremo will be made to die with the father, or will be buried with the father. So this goes to show that there will always be change in tradition. There are some things that we just have to let go. There are some things that we have to retain. Okay, so and there are several approaches to tradition. We have evolutionary approach, great and little traditional approach. I will not waste time on this because of time. Now we have modernity as well. So the modernity is a topic in humanities and social sciences, which refers to the period of socioeconomic and political changes in world affairs, as well as the activities that characterize the period. In essence, when we talk of modernity, it can mean the period when we begin to have this change from, this change and the characteristics of the period itself. And when we talk modernism or modern era, we are basically talking of enlightenment, we are talking of modern arts, we are talking of scientific discoveries, capitalism, secularization, liberalization, among others. We are talking of an era whereby the former activities, former traditions, for instance, in Europe, whereby if somebody commits sins, if a Christian faithful commits sin, Catholic to be precise, what he does or what she does is go to the priest or the Baptist, confess to him, give him some things, the Baptist receives it and declares his sin or her sin forgiven. So at the point in time, people realized that, so we had the age of enlightenment and people were beginning to divert attention from church, from religion, and we begin to have secularization. If you look at capitalism as well, people begin to leave the era of using crude materials and started having inventions. National institution. National institution is basically, an indigenous mechanism of governance devised in accordance with customs and traditions. And when we say Nigerian traditional institutions, these are mechanisms that are devised in tandem with the Nigerian societies. And things to know about Nigerian pre-colonial traditional political institution or system. We have diverse systems across the region. In the Hausa Fulani pre-colonial traditional system, we had a centralized institution whereby the emir decided over everything. Is both the religious, the political, and the what? It is both the religious and the political ruler of the state. He appoints whomsoever you want to different positions. In the Igbo, who occupied the southeastern region, what they had was a cephalous system, was a democratic system whereby each family is represented in the decision making of the state of the community. In the southwestern part, which is basically the Yoruba people, what we had was a system that operated based on checks and balances. Although the Alafin, who is the traditional ruler, the traditional head, with powers, but those powers are checkmated by several other institutions like the Oyomesi, who are the 7 ministers, what we have as ministers in current time. And the leader of that Oyomesi is known as Bashorun, what you have as prime minister in the contemporary political system. Quickly going to we have the Ogboni as well. Those ones represent the religious aspect of the society. They carry out sacrifices, and they also mediate whenever there is issue between the Oyomesi and the Alaafin. We also have the Eshos, the military, those who fought to protect the empire. Now, the Igbo, we have the age grade. What they did basically was legislative functions, and they also help in some social functions like clearing road path, streams, and so on and so forth. In the Hausa traditional system, you have the emir, you have he appoints those people who would work with him. You have Madawaki, you have Waziri, who is the minister of state capital. You have Sakin Power, the officer in charge of butchers, the Yari, officer in charge of prison. You have Galadima, the administrator of the capital, and so on and so forth. Now, looking at this, we realize that, for instance, especially the Hausa Fulani, we can criticize it to say that this system is centralized and gives the emir too much power to appoint those whom he considers, or those whom whoever favors him, whoever is interested in. Just like we have in the current systems too, democratic systems, where the president appoints several ministers. So it means that even in the traditional system that we had negativities, we had disadvantages. Okay, just as we have disadvantages in the Western democratic system too. So this is to argue that even the traditional system also has its flaws, just like the Western democracies has its own flaws too. Now, what are the things that the factors that necessitated this the subjugation of the Nigerian traditional political institutions? For colonialism, we've been having denigration of our institution, even by the indigenous, by the indigenes of Nigeria, by the institutions themselves. Because people often tend to major on the colonialists. I'll give you an instance. Recall that a particular Alafi in the pre-colonial Oyo system, his name is Alafi Aole, succeeded Alafi Abiodun and reigned towards the end of the 19th century. Okay? This Alafi, when he was prince, what he did was that there was a time that he was caught trying to sell his friends into slavery in a place called Afomu in an Ife town. So the Baale of that particular town, of that community, sanctioned him. Despite the fact that he was prince. So when he became king, when Aole became king, he thought that he was going to avenge what was done to him. And Afomu is an Ife town that is considered to be sacrilegious to attack. Ife, although was not as popular as Oyo Empire in those days, but Oyo Empire knew that they could not, in as much as they were extending their territories, they could not extend it into Ife. They could not attack Ife. So, but this Aole ordered an attack on Afomu, and that was assumed by scholars to contribute to the collapse of that particular empire. So this is an example of an indigenous person trying to weaken the system. Now, during the colonial days, the colonial masters, the British, they came, they did all the efforts, invented indirect rule system whereby our rulers serve as agents for them. Now, in some places, it was forceful. In some areas, it was not forceful. When you say not forceful, it means that the traditional rulers themselves, who allowed themselves to be used by the colonialists to favor the colonialists. Now, how do we justify that? It means that the indigenous people to add hands in the subjugation of our traditional institutions. And in places like Lagos, it was basically force that was used. We had the bombardments in 1851. We had the annexation in 1861. By independence, the self-serving nationalists who emerged as leaders after independence could not tolerate the existence of contending points of power. They therefore subjugated the national institutions even more than the colonial government had done. They further alienated from governance. They further alienated the traditional institution from governance. For instance, the 1979 Constitution provided the traditional rulers with just mere advisory role. What they do is to advise the politicians, and that is dependent on the politician whether they would yield or not. So it means that the localists, the Nigerians themselves too, after taking power in 1960, also contributed to the subjugation of the denigration of our traditional political institution. And even the 1999 Constitution does not even have a place for traditional institution in it. There is no specific function allotted to them. Now, meanwhile, this institution has a role to play in helping us fashion out our either foreign policy, either nation building, and so on and so forth. For instance, traditional institutions have helped in peace building, national level and at international levels. Using their good offices, they act as mediators in reconciling international issues. For instance, Sultan of Sokoto assisted in conducting diplomatic talks with the Niger junta in August last year when they took over power forcefully. And the Nigerian government, being the big brother of Africa, tried every possible best, the ECOWAS entirely, tried their best to reinstate Bazoum, who was deposed. But they could not do that. In fact, the junta were not even giving them chance for diplomatic talks. It was until when they sent the Sultan of Sokoto with former president, former head of state, Absalam Abubakar, we begin to have a friendly relationship. They begin to give rooms for talks. So it means that our traditional institution can also help in actualizing our foreign policy objective. They can also help in teaching the locals, that is the indigenes, the grassroots, educating them on some of the policies that the government give. Sometimes it is lack of understanding of policies that turn everything in shambles. When there was a discussion policy, although we understand that the government themselves would present themselves as saviors and as well as the one causing the issues. So, but then I believe that reinforcing, helping the traditional institution, or giving them peculiar roles in the constitution would help us mitigate if some effects at the local levels. It will help the government to translate ideas to the grassroots, and they can also help in security, just like Dr. Akubo has earlier mentioned, border security and so on and so forth. Now, my recommendations is that there should be clear constitutional provisions for traditional institutions. Traditional rulers should withhold customs and traditions. They should be allowed to operate independently alongside the Western democracy that we are facing in Nigeria. And as well, the traditional rulers should themselves be tolerant. They should be tolerant when dealing with other political institutions. Thank you, as I welcome questions and comments. All right, we have still about 30 minutes left. If you have questions, comments, criticisms, kindly lay it forward to the respective participants so that we can address these things. Okay, I'm going to everything from start then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, the first person.
I want to appreciate all the presentations and particularly our Idori expert, chieftaincy title or expert. But I have 1 or 2 comments and questions to ask. You were saying it's a monarchy. In the women traditional institution is a monarchy. What's the mode of accession? Is there a clear line defined mode of accession? Do they have kingmakers? Is it well developed or is it still emerging? Thank you.
Can I answer now?
No, I've noticed everybody has a question.
So I want to appreciate my fellow presenters and the panelists and the people present here. So my own is just an assertion for our Idoni expert. I feel we should be careful in like the way we present the monarchy system, because now with what you said, you already established it that there is a king in Idoni, and there's also a place of noble, if I'm not mistaken, and like the noble itself, it's in our capacity is more like a female king, right? Well, now what I'm saying is this: are there instances of clashes of personality? If not, how are their roles clearly stated? We should be able to understand that, because we should be careful with the way we present it. And another thing I would like to reiterate is that while I was talking about the role of African traditional indigenous rulers, yes, there are some flaws, which I accepted that there are some flaws. But in any given government system, we should understand the place of the voice of the people. Even in the voice of the people in the way we govern ourselves, and which will bring me to the fact that even in the United Kingdom, even that we adopted their democracy, they are still outcome of their indigenous system where the queen and the king, the queen and the king still govern and they are still relevant. And that was what I meant when I was talking about we should understand, we should be able to establish the role of our traditional indigenous rulers in our nation building. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's Olale from University of Ibadan. I want to appreciate everyone that that presented their papers. And I would like to, first of all, talk about the presentation on Idore Kingdom. And I want to appreciate what the second person that commented on it said. It's like in Ondo State generally, you know, there are these female institutions. Is a common thing in all the establishments, particularly in Ondo. And you know, the Ondo Kingdom is the broadest, or I say largest kingdom. And it's like when I did a study on Ondo, I realized that even the chiefs, they have their palaces. So because they have palaces, you cannot say that, they wield the same power with the king. So then the first presenter, I have a comment too. And my question is, I don't know whether you are talking from the perspective of political science or historical perspective. They are not, it's like, another thing is that it's like you need to, I think that's your topic. If it's from political science, then I think it's okay. But if you are talking from the historical perspective, then this your topic is too, because you have to define your study area. Then you have to talk about the existing knowledge. That's how we write in history. Yeah, then you have to tell your presentation. You have to also tell us about the research gap. Then what you are contributing to knowledge. Those are the ways to make a proper historical presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, the fourth person.
A big thank you to all the presenters for the very insightful presentations. My first comment is observation is to him, actually. I think he presented on African traditional political institution. Well, mine is just the kind of observation that I think you can look more into. I think when you were presenting, you make some references to the Ibadan traditional installation of the kings. I think you might want to look into that more. I don't think there is any rank of kind of that is attached to the Ibadan ascendancy kind of. I think every Olubadan, there is a step to ascension. So even before the death of an Olubadan, you know the incoming Olubadan. So that's just an observation. But I think the contestation really now is about the health of the incoming one that should ideally ascend the dead one. So that's just the kind of observation you might want to look into. And I have a kind of question for Doc that presented on traditional authorities and border management. Yeah, thank you for the very beautiful presentation, sir. Well, my own comments, which I want to believe might be in your paper, probably because of the time limitation, is that you made mention of the fact that traditional rulers ab initio had a way of maintaining the borders, they have the kind of inkling about who is entering and all that. But I expected that you would probably give us the mechanisms that they used in the past for all this. I think that marks the end of my question.
Okay, thank you very much. Even though I came in the middle of the presentation, but my question is only for, or my observation is only for the last presenter. Yeah, quite an exciting presentation. I think the topic is between modernity and conservatism. So, I remember fully the instances where you mentioned the good way through which tradition is promotes social development. I also mentioned how the indigenous to also denigrate their culture. And I think, again, when it comes to the political class, I think there are some fundamental ones you need to do a little more so that you can add up to give you a robust data. Fundamental to all this is the posting of the emir of Kano by the political institution during the reign of the former governor Abdullahi Ganduje. It was we believe that first-class emirs wield more power to the point that, and especially in this part of the world, the reverence we give to to Obas is different from the perspective of the northern Nigeria. So when you may want to look at the differences and the reference given to them, we say Oba is Alashe Ikejucha, the second to the gods. But in that place, that happened easily. And recently, there's also another chaos going on because that deposed king has also been reinstated again, and there is a serious court case about that. So you want to look into this. Then the changes you spoke about of killing heir to the throne together with the king, and later it was stopped, and it's because of criteria of having a person that take over the crown prince, right? But let's also look at the aspect of education. In this contemporary trend, there's also a lot of changes to that now. Before you can be a king, a ruler, with fundamental criteria that you have to be educated, especially in the northern axis, based on the experience I've had over the years. You have to be able to speak English. You have to be educated, to be lettered, so that whenever there is any policy coming from the Western world, you'll be able to, the power and the strength to intervene will also be there. And lastly, between modernity and conservatism, when we look at even the Western, the advanced country, you realize that there is also this crisis that we're talking about. Also, it's not related only to Nigeria or Africa alone. Even in the Western world, there are a lot of things. And as we evolve, as events happens, a lot of things are committed to changes. And that takes me to the question I've been asking myself. I've not been able to provide an answer on a lighter mode, that when you have the ability to speak good English, receive pronunciation, it is called the Queen's English. But now that is a king that we have in England now. So what do we call it? It's still a Queen English because the king now is the head of the. So I think this is also another concern that I think history needs to also document and interrogate. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Cesar Amasio is my name, from the University of Benin and the Institute for Benin Studies. I want to thank the various contributors to this these various topics that have been highlighted. So as an historian myself, that's why I said, okay, let me come and participate in it. But I'm generally impressed by the four main speakers, the way they presented their study. But my only argument is the limitation, the place, and the scope of study. For example, like the Benin, I didn't hear mention of the Benin empire or kingdom, so to say. So, because it was well organized. So, and I happen, since, I do some work on Benin studies. So I would like people to also include it, especially when it comes to the current one between modernity and conservatism and the political institution under perpetual siege, sorry to say. So there's need to include to expand our scope of study, since we are dealing on African traditional rulers. Then when you also talk of border control and mechanisms, then you see that the Benin Empire was so well established on that aspect. There's an author on Benin political history. There's an author on Benin military system. Now we are taking study of every aspect of, comparing the Benin Kingdom even up to date to the present century in every aspect, even the social, the economic, So that is part of that. I also want to commend that young lady on her study, but I think much is not known about that area of study. I would like you to do more study on that aspect. I want you to graduate it to the next level, so that to be made known to the world, especially in this era of modernity, where we think female chieftaincy titles and all other things and especially this age of gender empowerment and gender studies. That your topic play a relevant role. So I would like you to do more on it. Thank you.
So I will start by thanking all the presenters, the panelists, and the chairman, sorry, the head of the panel. So you all did well. But your topic caught my attention or interest, so to say. So, and it provoked a feeling of, was this nostalgic feeling I had when you were treating this? Because we've been having this back then in secondary school. So the Yoruba system, the Hausa system, and the Igbo political system. That's by the way. So I have a simple question to ask. You made mention of the RMO. Hope I pronounced it well. The RMO being killed after the father's death. Then now, is this still in place? Okay, no more in place. Because in this in our Igbo traditional system, we also have a similar problem like that, whereby when the king dies, the son, who is the head, will like to become the next king. And let's say it is a social injustice, whereby a family keeps on being the king. In democracy, it shouldn't be encouraged. So that is then we have this case whereby a king will die, the son will try to be the king, and the son will like the son like to be rotated, like for it to be. Thank you. So in my own view, I don't think it should be encouraged. So I'm happy that you've answered my question. Thank you. That's my own view. Thank you.
I think it's okay. I really appreciate the contribution and the comment, and I would like to reiterate that this work particularly is still in its infant stage and it's still ongoing. But for me, I'm coming from a multidisciplinary approach to this topic, and I really want it to be contemporary, and that's the reason why I have it there. Is that 21st in the 21st century, I have it there because I really want to be contemporary and to make it understandable to make it understandable to recent scholars like myself. And another thing you talk about the existing knowledge gap. Yes, existing knowledge and research gap. Yeah, I understand your point that in writing any historical topic, you have to identify the literatures that are available on that particular topic, which I appreciate. But the reason why I didn't dwell much on that is because of the time factor that I have on this panel. But one thing that struck me in what you said about it was my research gap. My research gap. I need to take time to understand that much better too. Yes, I need to take time to understand that much better too. I was only particular about the argument I was raising. I was raising about it. I really need to look more into like the research gap I'm trying to fill. And I feel like in understanding the existing literatures on it and know the contemporary questions that are on this topic, I'll be able to get that answer. And about the Ibadan issue that she raised, the thing is, thank you very much for taking me to that. I think in my presentation, I think I took it. I was making reference to the Alaafin instead of Ibadan. I know Ibadan, but the issue we had with Ibadan was that they were Olufanana was coming in where aged men, like aged men already, we like a lot of scholars are writing on it. But that's by the way of in my own presentation. But I appreciate that. But I was talking about the issue of the Alaafin, where different families has already tendered their representative. Because the way the Alaafin enthronement works is that they are ruling family already. They are ruling family already, and each family that is entitled to that role represent their own representative. So I think that I was talking. I wanted to make reference of the Alaafin there, but I really appreciate pointing that out for me. It's something I appreciate. Thank you very, very much for that.
Thank you very much for participating. Just a passing comment in reaction to my sister's comment. I really want to appreciate all of you, and especially that you were paying attention to what we were discussing. Apart from the Igbo traditional system, which was not very organized, the rest of the traditional institutions, authorities that we had most systems of they have a security outfit, they have administrative outfit, they have structures that were in place. It's just because of the time. They had the structures, they have the security, they have intelligence, they have people who are on the field, they have soldiers, they even have police. So if those things are still upheld and we actually want to use them up to today, they will help our security situation and we'll have a better society. Thank you.
All right, I'll be very fast. Thank you so much for the comment. Like, this is the first time I'm getting all these comments on this, let's say, fresh, because it was very difficult to even get information and tie things together like this. So I'll work on it. And for the clash between Lobo and Owa, there's never a clash, because when I even went there to make my research, they sent me straight to her. They didn't even bother to even explain or ask me to meet the king. They just send me straight to her to give me everything I need. So they actually see this woman as a custodian, someone that you can get everything you need concerning the kingdom. You can get it from her. And will I say they call her Oba Obirin? That means everything that concerns women, she's actually in charge. Yes, she's actually in charge. So anything that has to do with the market, that has to do with women affairs, so she's in charge. And for the mode of accession of Lobo, it is only a specific lineage that can ascend as Lobo. It's just a specific lineage that can ascend as Lobo. And different, now I told you that Lobo has different chiefs under, so it's only a specific lineage that can ascend, and it has to be women in their menopause age. It is not anyhow, a child cannot be a Lobo, no. It has to be a woman that is of age, that has seen things and is very wealthy. Very important. She has to be very wealthy. She has to be very wealthy. And the mode of accession, okay, from the way I see it and the pictures and the videos I've watched and the stories, I would say that the mode of accession is just like you installing a king, because they use days. She go through a lot of stress. They will, after all, she will stay in a room for days. They'll carry her up the hills, and she will tie wrapper. She will tie a white wrapper. We still have the picture in my house. She tied a white wrapper and she had to stay in a room for a long day. And after her staying in a room for a long time, people have to dance around, carry her like a king round the hills like that. So they have a beautiful way of she coming to the, let's say, to this thing. It's to be enthroned, yes, as love.
The king make us 3 million.
No, okay. Okay, the qualification. That's why I said that it has to be from a family, a particular lineage. If you are not from that lineage, you cannot because you cannot ascend the throne. Yes. Yeah, you have to be rich. You have to be rich. And must have faith. Okay, yes, menopause age. She's not a young woman. She has to be in a menopause because there are a lot of taboos that a woman that is still menstruating must not do. Yes, she has a whole lot of taboos. Someone that is menstruating must not touch her hair. So a lot of things, she must not tie another person's scarf. Everything. The person that is cooking up, a lot of taboos, a whole lot of taboos, a whole lot. That's why I was very glad when I saw the model traditional, the model female chieftain. So that one, she does not have to go through that stress of
But then I think you have to kind of research into how our place because she's kind of localized. I don't think that's the kind of situation localized.
No, the only thing that I think as I went to visit her, the only thing there is that she's following the tradition. Like they are still holding on to it. Like kingdom is still holding firm to that kingdom. The only thing there is that maybe they'll like she's still holding on to it. That's the only thing. But that taboo is still there. They are still holding on to that taboo.
I'm sorry for the but for me, I didn't want to I didn't want to try to put in context talking to you about the final content. Because see, there's a case of misrepresentation in African studies. And I feel like when you are making those because this kind of are technological research. And like you need to categorize in the sense that it will represent them as them only on
Yes.
origin of this foundation.
All right, thank you, sir.
Sure. Excuse my language.
All right, thank you very much for. I'd like to quickly comment on what Konaya has said, that we have to broaden our limitation and scope of study. Apparently, none of us mentioned the Benin Kingdom, and Benin Kingdom was one of the prominent kingdoms in Nigeria, even still relevant to date. So, and I also like to appreciate my mentor, my scholar, who has said that I should make my work more contemporary. I included some things, cited the Emir Tosu as an example. I'd also like to mention some other things, but because of the time, I will not mention, including the public embarrassment meted out on the national level by former President Obasanjo in September last year. And a lot of examples. You see sometimes community people ban, they protest to the government chairman saying he's imposing someone who they don't like. Recently that happened in Southeast. I can't remember the state. In Southeast. So there are many examples.
How when because the government had issues of connection and emotion.
That is like out of the visualizing that they are still the voice of this political are still like the voice of
and it's still not
of the big tradition. Those issues so that you are like areas like that.
Right. Thank you very much. I thank everybody for attending this program, either physically or virtually, and I also appreciate your comments. It actually shows that you people were listening. Thank you. God bless you. I'm really honored to have shared this panel. I look forward to sharing more in the future. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.